Hello everyone. So I made this presentation a while ago. It's called From Skid to Pro. And what this presentation goes over, it talks about how to learn how to do some computer hacking. And this is going to be good if you're like an intermediate or a noob. And it just goes over a lot of useful stuff and what to do for your career and a lot of cool stuff like that. So let's get started with the presentation. So when you first start out, what you're going to want to do is you might want to have a lab. Not all of it's necessary, but what you're going to want to have is some sort of pen testing distribution. So there are a couple of operating systems that you can use. The most famous one being is Kali Linux. So this is made by a company called Defensive Security, and it has some fun tools that you can use. We also have Parrot OS. This is used by Hack the Box, and it is an alternative to Kali Linux. And then we also have the Black Arch project, which is also pretty cool. Most people go with Kali Linux. You can also build your own pen testing operating system, and I can show how to do that in another video. And there's many reasons you would want to do this. But I would recommend getting a pen testing distro to learn how to do some hacking. And just with these distros, keep in mind they have a lot of tools, and just not all of them are useful in my opinion. A lot of them are, but just keep that in mind. They can be a little bloaty. We also, this right here is called Metasploitable, and so what it is, it's a vulnerable virtual machine, and that's kind of fun to mess around with. We also have, here's a video on how to create an Active Directory lab. I won't show that to you. Here's the damn vulnerable web application. So this is like a web application that you can practice a lot of web exploitation on. There's also this website I did want to show. It's called Hack5. And this has a bunch of fun pen testing tools, like you got your Rubber Ducky, which is in Mr. Robot, and a bunch of fun tools. I'm not sure how useful this stuff is in real life, to be honest, but they are fun toys. And some of the stuff you can make on your own, by the way. So some of the prices are overpriced on Hack5. So I would recommend making some of the stuff on your own. But these tools are kind of fun. Not sure how real world they are, but just fun to mess around with. So here's just how you could create your simple lab. Not very in depth, but it's fun to have your own like hacking lab, I guess. And I can go over more on how to create a hacking lab in some separate videos if more people in the comments would like to see content like that. So next, I'm going to talk about my favorite YouTube channels when it comes to like cybersecurity, ethical hacking, yada yada yada. So just in general, there tends to be a lot of YouTube channels, and the hacker grift is definitely real. I'm not going to mention any names of YouTubers, but there are certain YouTubers that I vehemently am not a big fan of. So you know, I just in general don't really like hacking YouTube in general. There's a lot of problems with it. I don't know. I could talk about this on and on and on. There are some this is not exhaustive at all. There are some YouTubers that a lot of people like Live Overflow, John Hammond, maybe Cybermentor. They're fine. They're not my favorite. They're not bad though, so you can watch those, but I just don't like YouTube at all, and I don't like cybersecurity YouTube at all. So here are going to be my two favorite YouTube channels. So IPSec is amazing. So he has this website called ipsec.rocks, and what you can do is that if there's something you want to learn about, you can enter it into his little search engine, and it will show you some of his videos that he's covered on the topic. So let's say we want to learn about how to use Mimikatz, right, he has a video right here on how to do antivirus evasion with Mimikatz. Or we could search Hashcat, and he shows you how to do some stuff with Hashcat. So IPSec's awesome. I would definitely check out his channel. And then Hackersploit is also pretty cool. So those are my two favorite channels. Just in general though, if you're going to learn how to do computer hacking, the thing is that if you watch, just because you watch like 300 videos doesn't mean you can actually do it. There's a difference between watching something and actually executing it. So I would recommend to actually do things in the real world. Which brings me to this slide. So when you get started, what you're going to want to do is get a certification. There's a lot of free stuff you can do online, and you can learn a lot of this stuff for free. However, the reason why I recommend to do certifications is because the material is very streamlined. So when you're learning with a certification, it's actually going to be a lot faster than if you're not learning with a certification, because of how streamlined the material is and how it's well designed. So it's actually just more efficient in general to learn with a certification than to learn this stuff by just like putting lots of research into this. So there's a lot of good introductory certifications for hacking, pen testing, yada yada yada. So the most famous one is going to be the Offensive Security Plus. Let me pull up the website really quick. So again, this is by the people who made Kali, and this is a very famous certification. It's really good for HR purposes. A lot of HR people really do like the Offensive Security Plus. I've heard some people have some beef with OffSec. I have not taken the Pen 200 because I don't have the money. $3,000 is a bit overpriced, but it is high quality, and it's taking some of the pen testing course from Offensive Security is going to be a great introduction to how to do computer hacking. We also have the PNPT. I have not done this one, but I like TCM Security as a company. They're cool. So they're a lot cheaper. I'm a poor college student, so I don't like companies like Offensive Security or SANS because their pricing is just way too much. It's ridiculous. So I prefer cheaper certifications. So I've heard good things about PNPT. I haven't done it yet, but taking a certification like this should be a good introduction to how to do some hacking. So that's pretty cool. And this is one that I'm almost completed with, called the CPTS. So this is by Hack the Box. So this is a website I can talk about in another video. And it's a pretty good learning tool, but they are starting to do certifications, and their new certification, the CPTS, is a great resource, and it's much more in depth than OSCP. Their CPTS course is going to be a lot more difficult, and makes the OSCP look silly in my opinion. So yeah, those are some 3 certifications you can look at. There's a lot more certifications. This isn't exhaustive, and this is my opinion, obviously, so you have to keep that in mind. These 2 are not really going to be as recognized by HR, it seems like to me. So if you want to get around the HR block, you're going to want to get the OSCP, it seems like. So yeah, and then also when you're doing a pen test cert, you want to do something that's very hands-on. So stuff like the CEH or the Pen Test Plus, don't bother doing that stuff because it's a lot of test questions. So if your certification is not hands-on, then you might as well discard it because it's not going to be useful in my opinion. So now, where are the best places to practice skills and learn hacking? So this is going to be for beginners, but what we have 3 different ways you can do it. We have a website called Hack the Box. We have a website called Try Hack Me, and then we have the Real World Under Legal Circumstances. So Hack the Box is this website where you can do what's called boot to root machines. So they'll give you a machine, and your goal is to hack into it. And Try Hack Me is a little bit similar. I have not done Try Hack Me before. I've done more of Hack the Box. But these are really good introductions, and they both have like academies. So I would check out some of their courses on there, and try to complete some of their courses on Hack the Box and Try Hack Me. And just when you're starting out, these are going to be really useful, and they both have good communities. Specifically with Hack the Box, I've talked to a lot of people who have been in the industry. I've talked to a lot of actual pen testers on the Hack the Box Discord before. So there's a lot of very smart people in the community. So if you need help, feel free to ask somebody. And then we also have the Real World, which this is going to be pretty important because Hack the Box and Try Hack Me, the methodology for doing a CTF is going to be a little bit different than for what you're doing within the real world. So you can practice some hacking under legal circumstances. Unfortunately, I can't tell you guys to do anything illegal. But there is a website I'll show you. Let's see where it is. I'll pull it up. So here's an example of hacking legally in the real world. There's something called bug bounties, and what they are is that you can pretty much legally hack websites if you look at the scope, and then companies will pay you for discovering the vulnerabilities. One thing to take note about this is that some people act like you can do a career out of this. This is not something you want to do as a career. It's very difficult to make money full time, and the amount of money that you get paid versus the time of work that you put into doing bug bounties is just ridiculous. Like, you might as well, I think it'd be more efficient to work at McDonald's than to be a full-time bug bounty hunter. It's very corporate-y, so super lame. Unfortunately, with the cybersecurity field in general, it is kind of corporate-y, so that sucks. But the reason why I do mention bug bounties is because this is a good way to practice how to do web exploitation. So even though you might not getting paid a lot, this is very real world experience, and some of the things that you get from Hack the Box and Try Hack Me cannot be replicated by doing stuff like bug bounties. So when you're skilled enough, start doing stuff in the real world under legal circumstances. Start hacking stuff in the real world, because that's what you're going to do after you graduate from Hack the Box and Try Hack Me. So here, those are the best 3 places I would say to practice and hone your skills when you're starting out. So here's just a little bit of a beginner tool set. I didn't include everything. And just in general, you want to focus a little bit more on your theory than your tools, because just if you know how to use Burp Suite, it doesn't mean you know when to use Burp Suite, if that makes sense. So these are some different tools you can look at. This isn't exhaustive by any means, and there's probably some tools I forgot to put on here. But like Nmaps, very useful. Burp Suite, very useful. All of these are pretty useful in some cases. So I would watch some videos on how to use some of these tools, because they're just good tools to use in general. And just with tooling in general, it matters. All that matters is if the tool works. So it doesn't matter what tools you're using. It just matters if it works. So yeah, and there's a lot of alternatives to some of these tools, and there's just a bajillion tools. I've heard some people say, you're not a good pen tester if you don't write your own tools, which I think is just silly. It takes a lot of time to write really good tools, so I can just use someone else's tool that they already built for me. They can do all the grunt work, you know. I don't see why you would need to build your tools from scratch. I think that's ridiculous, personally. You can, if you want to build tools for fun, go at it. That's super cool. but I don't see the need to build your own tools. So that's just a little bit of commenting on some of the tools that you'll use. Not exhaustive, but just check out some of these when you're starting out and see if you like these, because these are all fun. And then we'll talk about career paths and making money legally. So a lot of people in the field are what's called pen testers. And what that means is that you get hired by a company to perform like security testing, and you're basically an ethical hacker, and then you write a report, and then you send the report to the company. This is what I have been planning to do with my career. So yeah, I'm not really an expert on the industry, so take some of the stuff I say with a grain of salt. But this is a pretty cool job. We also have the state-sponsored route. So just because I put legally, I didn't specify if it's ethical or not. That's up to your interpretation. But there are a lot of really good hacking groups are going to be state-sponsored now. So like again, there's a lot of state-sponsored and state-backed groups in Russia. And again, this probably depends on your country. But a lot of the best hackers are going to be going there. I'm not saying it's ethical. I'm simply saying that in certain places it's probably legal, and if you want to be the best of the best, that's something to definitely consider. There's also exploit development, which I think is a pretty cool field. So here's a website I will show you. So this is a website called Zerodium. So if we looked at the Snowden leaks, a lot of the Snowden leaks showed us that governments are paying big money for exploits. So a great example was there a while ago. There was this horrible mass shooting, unfortunately, and the United States government wanted to get into a hacker's phone, and so they asked Apple, the FBI wanted to get into the terrorist's phone. So the FBI asked Apple, give us a backdoor into the phone. And obviously Apple said no, because if the FBI was able, or the NSA, I'm not sure, if the government was able to have a backdoor, they could get into other people's phones. So Apple obviously said no. So what they did is they hired a hacker who was able to figure out how to get into the San Bernardino shooter's phone. And what they did was a technique called NAND flashing, which is really interesting and you should definitely look into. But that's how they were able to brute force the phone's password. So there are governments who do like exploits. So what Zerodium is, it's a little bit like a middleman between exploit developers and people who are paying for exploits. So some of these exploits will pay big bucks. So if you're gonna do like exploit stuff, don't do bug bounties, do Zerodium, I would say. So like if you have a Windows remote code execution 0-click vulnerability, can get paid up to $1 million. Apache remote code execution, Chrome remote execution, up to $500,000 and so on. So you can see the different pricing for some of these vulnerabilities, and there are some people who do exploit development, and they'll sell their exploits. And what these governments like to do is they'll like to hoard their 0 days because they don't know when they'll be useful or not. So like for example, there was a famous case with the shadow brokers. The shadow brokers leaked a bunch of vulnerabilities. And that's how WannaCry came into existence, because they leaked Eternal Blue. So yeah, this is a route to consider to maybe do some exploit development. Like I said, maybe not necessarily ethical, but doing stuff with Zerodium is definitely not illegal. Using the exploits is illegal, but finding the exploits isn't illegal. If we go back to my slideshow, you could also be a security researcher. So this is, I don't know a lot about this, but that would be a pretty cool job. You're going to be doing research, and it's really important because everything runs on the internet nowadays, and so we need to have a safe online atmosphere, and we need all our devices to be not hackable and secure. So security researchers are very helpful and very beneficial for society. So that is something to look into. And with security researching, you will be using methodologies similar to what a black hat would use. I don't really like the black hat, white hat, gray hat terms, to be honest, but that's something else. And then one more thing, you can also be a teaching or content creator, so you can teach people how to do some of this stuff. So these are some ways you can make money hacking legally. I'm sure there's more. Not an expert at the industry. And then just one more thing with cybersecurity, it tends to be a very in-demand field. So you'll have pretty good job security if you decide to go into cyber. So here's a little bit of a career path. So if you're going into cyber, or if you want to learn hacking in general, you're probably going to want to take IT as a degree instead of CS. CS tends to be programming focused. I don't want people to get angry at me about this, but I do think IT is going to be the way to go. I've done both computer science and IT, so I've done both, and I can tell you that IT is going to be the way to go. With hacking in general, you're going to want to have a very intimate knowledge with Windows and Linux operating systems, especially when you're doing like post-exploitation stuff. You're going to have a very intimate knowledge of those operating systems. So stuff like IT will give you very intimate knowledge on how Windows and Linux works. And computer science is going to be mostly focusing on discrete math, algorithms and data structures, and programming, which can be useful for cyber, but IT is more useful in my opinion. Also, so you probably want to get some certifications, because like in college they're not going to teach you a lot of pen testing stuff. Just like you're mostly going to learn your hacking stuff from certifications, not necessarily college. And then also having IT experience in the field helps a lot. That's pretty helpful. A lot of people, when they want to be pen testers, they'll start out at help desk. So there's nothing wrong with working your way up. So having IT experience is going to be pretty helpful for your career. And then there's a bunch of competitions that you can do. I'm not sure I've explained what a CTF is, but it's basically these fun cybersecurity competitions. So I'll show you this website. This is called CTF Time, and they have all these fun cybersecurity competitions that you can do. I personally don't do CTFs that much. I don't like CTFs, and I think that not all CTFs are created equal, and just because you're good at CTFs doesn't mean you're good at hacking. They're kind of different, and the methodologies are a little bit different. But that being said, you should check out some of these CTFs and see if you like them or not. Regardless, they are pretty fun to compete in, so look into those. I would recommend the boot to root CTFs though. Those are very real world. So just anything with CTFs in general, you're going to want to try to do something that's going to be as real world as possible. Some CTFs aren't real world, so keep that in mind. And then what you can do is that for your career, you can build like a blog or a YouTube channel or just something to show off your skills, so you can show those to HR recruiters. Because just in general, if you want to get hired, it doesn't matter how skilled you are. It also matters if you're good at networking and if you can prove your skills. And unfortunately, it also matters that you have good social skills. So if you have some social impairments, that might be a little disabling in those situations. So another thing I'd like to talk about, I think this is the last slide in my presentation, is having a methodology. So when you are doing computer hacking, you're going to want to have a methodology. So I'm going to show you this website called the MITRE Attack Matrix. MITRE is a famous cybersecurity organization. And so here is going to be the methodology that a lot of the pros are going to be using. So we have like reconnaissance, learning as much as you can on the target, getting initial access to systems, getting execution on those systems, persisting on those systems, escalating your privileges, evading defenses, lateral movement, collection, exfiltration, impact, and they also have stuff for mobile and ICS. So what's really cool about this is, let's say I want to learn how hackers are getting initial access to systems. So I can click right here, and it will show you the techniques, and it will give you information on these techniques right here. And then it will have these sub techniques right here. And if we click on some of these, it will show you examples of when these techniques have been used by threat groups and how to detect these techniques. And then you have some references over here. So this is going to be your Bible. And so following a methodology similar to MITRE ATT&CK is going to be really useful. Yeah, so this is a resource I would definitely check out. One more thing is that there is this, Mandiant does these reports every year. And so let me see if I can find the page. So what's cool with the Mandiant reports is they tell you what the trends are looking like in cybersecurity for those years, and you can see what the best hackers are doing. And so if you're being like a pen tester or something, you can replicate the exact methodologies and techniques that real world hackers are actually using. So right here, for example, I showed you the intrusion, how to do intrusions with MITRE ATT&CK. And what I like about the Mandiant report is they tell you the percentages. So 21% of these attacks that are going to have exploits facing public applications. Some of these are going to be phishing, external remote services, valid accounts, and they'll show you the percentages for some of these attacks. And just reading reports like these is super helpful and a very good learning experience. So when you're learning hacking, you want to have some sort of methodology, because if you don't have these methodologies, you'll get lost. So that is the last slide in my presentation. Thank you guys for watching the video. Like, subscribe, comment, post this everywhere. Please support my channel. And if there's any other content you guys would like, please let me know. And thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate it.